Hey everyone, and welcome. So today we're going to tackle a skill that honestly, every single programmer has to master, and that's writing to files in Python. I mean, think about it, right? All that awesome data your program is churning out, it needs a safe place to live once your code stops running. Otherwise, it's just gone. So let's dive in and make sure your hard work never ever gets lost. All right, so here's what we've got on the agenda. First, we'll cover the basics, how to actually save your program's data. Then, we'll get into the interesting part, editing a file that's already there. And this is where it gets tricky, because we're going to look at both the, let's call it the dangerous way, and the safe way. After that, we'll see how to make brand new files, and wrap it all up with a super handy safety guide to make sure you're protecting your work. Okay, first things first. The big mission: how do we get all that precious information out of our program's temporary memory and lock it down into a permanent file? You see, anything your program does, all those calculations, the stuff a user types in, the final results, it all just lives in the computer's RAM. It's temporary. The second you close that program, poof, it's all gone, vanished. So writing to a file is basically you telling the computer, hey, this stuff right here, this is important. Save it. I'm going to need it later. Okay, but what happens when the file you want to work with already exists? Well, now you've hit a crossroads. You have a really critical choice to make. Are you going to add new information, or are you going to, well, replace everything that's already in there? So let's play this out. Imagine you've got this file, right? Maybe it's full of important notes for a project, or it's a log of everything that's been happening, and now you need to add more to it. What do? What's your next move? This right here, this is why understanding file modes is just so important. Really, this whole decision boils down to two very different paths. On one hand, you've got append mode, which we just call A. This is like opening a notebook and just turning to the next blank page to jot down some more notes. Everything you wrote before, it's still there, totally safe. And then you've got write mode, or W. And yeah, this one is kind of the nuclear option. This is like taking that same notebook, erasing every single page, and starting completely fresh. And that brings us to something really important. A big warning sign. We have to talk about the overwrite trap. Seriously, this is something you have to handle with extreme care. So here's the deal with write mode, with W. It is incredibly powerful, but it's also kind of ruthless. It will completely overwrite a file without asking any questions. No "are you sure" pop-up, it just sees the file, throws it open, and instantly wipes it clean, ready for whatever new stuff you want to put in. And the scariest part? There is no undo button. And trust me, it is so easy to make this mistake. That horrible feeling when you realize, whoops, I have deleted the content. Yeah, that's not a fun moment. That is exactly the disaster we are trying to avoid. So let's just be crystal clear about this. Write mode W completely overwrites whatever's in that file. It permanently replaces all the old data. When you use W, the original content is gone. For good. That's why you have to be 100% positive that you want to start over before you even think about using it. Phew. Okay, after that pretty scary warning, let's talk about something much safer. Let's talk about the good guy in this story, the real hero when you just want to add new information. Let's talk about append mode. Append mode, or A, is pretty much your best friend when you want to keep what you've already got. It's super simple. It just adds whatever new data you have to the very end of the file. That's it. I mean, think about it. A high score list for a game, right? Or a chat log. Or maybe a science experiment that's recording the temperature every hour. In all of those cases, you just want to add a new line without deleting the old ones. That is the perfect job for append. And the process itself? It's so simple and safe. You just open the file using A, write your new stuff, and you're done. The new information just gets tacked on to the end, and this is the most important part, all your original content is still there, perfectly preserved. Absolutely no whoops moments to be found here. All right, so far we've been talking all about editing files that are already there. But what about when you need to make a brand new file, completely from scratch? Well, it turns out you actually have 3 different ways to do this, and they kind of range from safest to, well, riskiest. First up, the safest option is create mode, or X. This one is designed to be cautious. It only creates a file if that name isn't already taken. If it is, Python actually throws an error, which is great. It's protecting you from an accident. Then there's our flexible friend, A for append. It'll create the file if it doesn't exist. And finally, you've got W for write. It will also create a new file, but it still carries that big risk of just overwriting a file if that name is already in use. So what's the big takeaway here? It's simple. If your main goal is to create a brand new file and you want to be absolutely positively sure you don't accidentally destroy something else, Xmode is your best bet. No question. It was literally designed to prevent these exact kinds of accidents. All right, let's wrap this all up and bring it together into a final safety guide. Think of these as the coder's best practices, the rules that'll keep your data safe and your code rock solid. Okay, here it is, your safety first checklist. First, and this is a big one, always use what's called a with statement. It automatically and properly closes your files for you. So important. Second, always be ready for things to go wrong. Like, what happens if the file isn't there? You need to handle that. Third, and I can't stress this enough, if a file is important, back it up before you even think about using W mode. Next, when you're making new files, just stick with X mode. It's safer. And finally, please, please, please test your code on some dummy files first before you let it loose on your real precious data. And here's the ultimate cheat sheet. It really is this simple. Use A for append when you want to add to logs or data files. Use W for write only when you need to completely replace a file's contents. And use X for create when you want to safely make a brand new file. Seriously, just choosing the right tool for the job is half the battle won. I'm going to leave you with this one last crucial thought. Remember this. Unlike a variable in your code that just vanishes when the program stops, file operations are permanent. What you do to a file stays done. So be mindful, be careful, and always, always choose your mode wisely. Happy coding, everyone!